Welcome to part 2 of Scaping the 22, and I decided to mix hardscaping. I have, if you saw last week's episode, I have lava rock, and this week I added some dragonstone, some small pieces of dragonstone. I'm going to be mixing rock and mixing driftwood. I have spiderwood too, so my main focal point of the driftwood is going to be the 3 pieces of weathered Manzanita branches. I only got 3 pieces. They are very pricey, so I got 3, and those are my tallest elements, and I decide, do I want them laying down? That could look really cool, or do I want them standing up out of the water? My initial kind of inspiration was branches sticking out of the water. I think I decided to go with that, especially on the left-hand side, because it when I took pictures, it's a really good idea. If you can't decide if something looks good or not, or if you like it or not, take a picture of it and look at the picture. For whatever reason, it always helps me out. And I just liked it better with it taller on the left-hand side and shorter on the right-hand side. I added very few pieces of dragonstone just to give a little more interest down at the bottom. I will probably be adding next week. Not only will I be adding the plants, but also some kind of accent rock, some smaller pieces, gravel, that sort of thing. But this week primarily is the driftwood, and those 3 pieces, when I initially kind of laid them out, they worked really, really nicely. And then when it was time to attach them, they were kind of stinkers. I also added a piece of Neca wood. I really like this one. I don't know if you remember this one. This one was used most recently in the shrimp shores. That's what I named it. My little 3.5 gallon when I had my yellow shrimp in there. That was a fun piece. I do like Neca wood. It seems to sink very quickly, and it's just a nice kind of color too. And then I used 2 pieces of spiderwood. Since I was limited to the driftwood that I had gotten at Zugsai, which were the 3 pieces of Manzanita, all I did was I grabbed all the smaller pieces of driftwood that I had in the garage and just kind of let it sit next to the tank. You'll see I have a pile of driftwood and rocks next to it that I was just kind of playing with, and I just like the just a few pieces of the dragonstone along the bottom, and then for whatever reason I liked the spiderwood. I was actually surprised at that myself, because frequently, at least lately, I haven't really been drawn to the spiderwood, but these pieces seem to go so nicely with these rocks, and a couple of these rocks are my super duper favorites. And that Neca wood, I just like the slope of it, that it kind of I don't know, when you see the backup shot, I'll kind of explain to it, but it kind of, I don't know, it smooths it out and kind of reinforces that little dip. See that little dip in the center of the tank, which is kind of what I wanted to look like, looking into a stream. And then these broken little pieces of the Manzanita, I wanted them to look kind of like they were kind of crawling on the rock, or just resting. They had kind of broken off and were just kind of resting there, or had died there or something like that. Now, when I initially laid out these pieces to see if I would like them, they all sat really, really nicely next to the rock, and that's another reason that I like to place things in specific spots, because if there's a mechanical hold, so that means if something is naturally resting on something, then it's going to attach easier, because then you don't have to sit there and hold it, or you don't have to use your the accelerator spray, which I didn't actually use in this one. I used little tiny, and I'm going to give some little tips. I'm going to show close-ups of me gluing in case you have not super glued before, but there's a couple tips that I can give you with the super glue. Sometimes I will be lazy, and I will just use like a bead, like a little strip of super glue, lay the driftwood on it, maybe add a little bit of sand to mask it because super glue can dry white sometimes. And then come back in another minute or so, pull the driftwood to make sure it's attached, and it's not. So then I will go back, and today I was using just little pieces of cotton ball. I've also used filter floss, that works really well too. And all you do is, it's crazy how this happens, but the super glue and the cotton or something like that, even paper towel pieces, it's almost like the super glue melts it and creates this bigger like bonding material, almost like a glue blob or something. And it's just really crazy. Think of it like cotton candy. When cotton candy gets wet, there you go, it like melts. But it's really kind of funny. I'll put a little bit of super glue on one of the sides or both, maybe some of the driftwood, some of the rock, and then just kind of, it doesn't have to be that neat, believe it or not. Just shove in a little piece of cotton ball or whatever you're using, and then take your super glue and add a little bit more on the outside, and just, it looks really messy. It looks really sloppy, like, oh, that's just gonna look awful. Nope, just keep poking it in, and it literally just like starts melting and disappearing. And then you can always add, like, sprinkle some sand. You can put some little rock pieces, little driftwood pieces, or even attach moss there later, or whatever plants you're putting there. And then this NECA piece, I actually decided to start gluing outside of it because there's these little tiny points that stick out that I was going to use to attach to the rock. And it's behind the rock, so you're not going to see it. And it's actually, these points will be underneath the sand almost, so I could get really sloppy with it, which, as you can see, it looks really sloppy, but you don't see it, and it actually worked really well. Now the funny thing is I didn't wind up attaching anything to the egg crate. Isn't that funny? I could have actually, and I actually completely forgot about it. The driftwood that's sticking up out of the sand on the left-hand side, I could have used it, but it actually worked out well, all the attaching points. But what was really nice is I never heard that awful sound of rocks scraping against the glass because the rocks didn't move. This is a close-up of the little tiny super glue bottle, and that's my tip. Twist when you put the two pieces together, because you kind of assemble it, and I went through like 2.5 of these for this little tiny build, but hold it at the very bottom. Don't squeeze the tube, because when you break the seal and then you pull off the cap, if you've squeezed that bottle at all, the super glue will come squirting out. And always have paper towel handy, because the super glue will start leaking out and you don't want it on your hands or on the carpet, on your dresser, anything else. Just have your paper towel handy. I hope you enjoyed part 2, adding some driftwood. I am so looking forward to next week. I hope you are as well, where I hope we're going to add some plants.